It is Rob from Movie Review Time. Welcome to my very first review in the Star Wars movie series marathon. I plan on reviewing all the Star Wars films up to Rise of Skywalker. I know I'm a little late on this because Rise of Skywalker actually comes out next week. So, yeah, better late than never. I was really busy. I wanted to do it last month, but I didn't get a chance. So, we're going to start with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, 1999. Man, I remember this like it was yesterday. The lineup for this movie was incredible because Star Wars was back.
The Phantom Menace opens at midnight.
Place in the Star Wars line.
People started lining up over a month ago.
All right, get out your lightsabers.
You just may have noticed that Star Wars, the latest episode, opens nationally at midnight tonight.
The hype surrounding this movie has been overwhelming. Now the question is, will it deliver?
They're about to open the doors here in just a few minutes, and people are revved
Some
up.
2.2 million Americans from New York to
It's like 1977. I haven't felt this since 1977.
Episode 2, man. Episode 2, bro. Episode 2. Alright. It's just beginning, man. It's just an ending. This is fucking awesome.
I mean, here we have a movie that's going to take place 32 years before the original Star Wars. Let that sink in a little bit. 32 years before then. There's so much that has happened before that time. All the ideas that they had. George Lucas coming back to do this. And I was hyped, man. The toys, the action figures, the Lego sets. Merchandise was everywhere. T-shirts, cereal. It was Star Wars. That's what it was about. And, oh man, I was just so hyped. It was on the news. When people lined up to see the movie, it was on the news. God, it was everywhere. Such an exciting time to be alive. Let me tell you something about Star Wars. That is an event. That is something to go to the theater at midnight to stand in line to see. At that time, they used to do that. Now the shows are like way earlier. But that is something to stand in line for. That is what you call a movie event, okay? And it's sort of a tradition in a lot of sense. But yeah, 32 years before the original Star Wars film. But the basis story of Phantom Menace is that it follows Qui-Gon Jinn, who is a Jedi Master, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is a Padawan learner, or his apprentice, so to say. And it's a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, we're used to seeing Alec Guinness. Now we get to see when he's, I guess, sort of becoming in his prime. And Ewan McGregor plays him, and he's spot on. Spot on. He's younger, he's clean-shaven and all that stuff, but it's Obi-Wan. That's his story. But Liam Neeson plays Qui-Gon, who's a Jedi Master, and he's fantastic. I know a lot of people say they didn't really care for Qui-Gon, and I don't understand that at all. I mean, I really liked him, and I wish he would have come back as well, I am going to talk spoilers in this, but Force Ghost. I wish he would have come back for that. But anyway, they protect Queen Amidala, played by Natalie Portman, in hopes of securing a peaceful end to a trade dispute that's going on. with the Trade Federation, Viceroy. Yeah, this movie's all about politics and trade disputes and signing treaties and things like that. Stuff that I think some fans were, I don't know, I guess not into as much. Even though this movie was kind of geared towards kids in a way, kid-friendly, you know, versus the other films, the original trilogy, which really weren't as much as this one. You know, there were a lot of kid actors in this one, but anyway, it's all about trade disputes and stuff. But they come upon Anakin Skywalker as a little boy who has unusually strong Force powers, or he's strong with the Force, so to say. And you know, Anakin Skywalker, there you go, Darth Vader. Before he becomes Darth Vader, he's a little boy at this point. He's played by Jake Lloyd. And when it comes to Natalie Portman and Jake Lloyd, like, here's the thing, like, I thought Natalie Portman was fine. Some of the lines the dialogue that she would say was just kind of, I don't know, kind of over the top in some way. It was the writing, that's what it was. Jake Lloyd, I'm not a fan of him, but I don't blame him for trying. He tried in this movie, and I know a lot of people gave him hell, but I really can't blame him fully because it was, again, the writing, some of the stuff he had to say. In the audition process, there was another kid who was auditioning that looked just like a young Luke Skywalker with blonde hair. He tried out, and when he was saying his lines in the documentary, he was spot on. And I thought maybe he should have gotten the role instead of Jake. The only reason George Lucas hired Jake is because he found him to be unpredictable and unstudied. That's why you never know what's going to come out of him. But I think in my take on it, that's kind of a risk in a way. I mean, you're supposed to be professional at your job. I kind of think George should have secured the position by people auditioning instead of having a hunch that Jake Lloyd's going to do good here and he's not going to do good here. You know, like it's taking a risk. And I think, in my opinion, he should have went with that other kid. So, even though a lot of kids auditioned, but there was that one kid who they were going to pick other than Jake Lloyd. But, you know, everyone did their job. It was just the writing, the stuff that they had to say. Ian McDiarmid, who plays Senator Palpatine and Darth Sidious, he plays dual characters. You know, Palpatine, well, they call him Darth Sidious, but he's known as Emperor Palpatine. He made an appearance in Empire, and then his movie was Return of the Jedi. That's where he made a full appearance. And, you know, the same guy comes back to play him, and he's playing a senator, and it's like, he's behind this whole thing. He is into the politics stuff. He is the one that is creating all this stuff. So I really like that side of the politics with him being involved. That was good. Anthony Daniels returns as C-3PO. You actually get to see the birth of C-3PO. And Anakin is the one who made him, which was very interesting. I thought that was an interesting thing to throw in there. Of course, C-3PO is not, he's not, you know, he doesn't have all his parts. He's basically naked with wires showing and stuff like that. And that was fine. I mean, he's, you know, Anakin was building them with scrap parts and stuff. So that was, you know, that was fine. But, you know, Anthony Daniels, he is C-3PO. What can I say? Kenny Baker comes back to play R2. And R2 has a really cool scene where he saves the ship. And the ship is damaged. And all these droids are trying to fix it. But R2 is the one that fixes it and saves the day. That was a really cool introduction to R2. Because I was wondering how they were going to do that. Because, you know, R2, it's not like R2-D2 is not a main character. He's been there since the beginning, okay? So, Frank Oz returns as Yoda, and you can't have Yoda without Frank Oz, okay? He is Yoda. And it's a younger Yoda, and they went with a puppet, just like they did in Empire and Return of the Jedi. Of course, he doesn't look like he did there because he's younger. But I thought he looked more like a Muppet, and I didn't like it. They fixed that by making him a full CG character in the Blu-ray box set, and I thought that was a necessary fix because now he looks like he does in the other prequel movies. It's stupid to have him look like a puppet, and then in the prequel other prequel movies, he looks CG. It doesn't make sense. So I'm glad, George fixed that, because it's in continuity with the other ones. I just thought it looked stupid. But I do agree that a lot of times having something physical on screen is easier to know that it's there, other than something that's completely CGI and it's not there because it's computerized. And it's easier for the actors to act when there's something there too. And I get that. But in this case, I just thought it looked stupid. Samuel Jackson is Mace Windu, who is part of the Jedi Council. He's a Jedi Master. And, he has a purple lightsaber. He really doesn't do much in this movie, but he's there. And I thought it was a nice addition. You got Ray Park, who plays Darth Maul. And Darth Maul is one of the coolest villains. And I honestly was kind of pissed when they killed him off. Even I know he returns in the Clone Wars or whatever. He returns, but he was also in Solo. But the thing is, I thought they should have had him at least be the bad guy up until the third movie, Revenge of the Sith. I thought maybe they should have, or even Attack of the Clones, maybe he should have, bit the dust in that movie. Because I prefer Darth Maul over Count Dooku. I think Darth Maul is a lot more interesting. But, yeah, he was cool either way, though. He didn't really have much to do other than track down the Jedi and then fight him at the end. And I love his dual-bladed saber, which we haven't seen before. Keira Knightley is actually a handmaiden who plays the decoy to Queen Amidala in this movie. And I didn't know that when it first came out. I didn't know that Keira Knightley was in it. Ahmed Best plays Jar Jar Binks, and he does a good Jar Jar, but I wasn't a fan of Jar Jar. I actually am not a fan of the Gungans. I'm not jumping on the Gungan hate train. I just don't really care for the characters. I prefer the Ewoks over the Gungans. For one thing, the Ewoks were actual, people dressed up. The Gungans just looked way too fake for me, and I felt like the Gungans had no purpose. I mean, it was almost like Lucas was redoing the Ewoks because they were using stuff to throw at the droids just like the Ewoks did, and they were using they weren't using like blasters. They were just basically using like tribal kind of stuff, like stuff that they could use from their planet or whatever. But whatever. The Gungans are the Gungans. It is what it is. Now, so you got a good cast. The cast is really, really good. I just think sometimes it's the situations they're in and the writing, I think, was just kind of off at times. But the music makes up for it. John Williams is the man. He knows how to do the Star Wars stuff. Star Wars is probably, the original trilogy has some of the best themes known to music, to movie history. When it comes to like vinyl and CD and just movie soundtracks, Star Wars is one of the most well known, and John Williams does that. But he did Duel of the Fates, which is awesome. I mean, it was an awesome theme to this movie, and it was something new and fresh, and it just really gets you hyped when the battles are going on. It had a budget of $50 million, according to George Lucas in the documentary. But then it was like, it went up to 115. But in the documentary, you can clearly hear him say that he's got $50 million to play around with. And the struggle to try to create these CG environments, because they were so expensive. He even says, none of these studios can afford to make movies like we do at these prices. So at that time, the prices were way too high for anybody to even, $50 million. That doesn't even sound like a lot now. But at that time, people weren't able to make movies like that. That's why, a lot of the stuff that George Lucas wanted to do with these movies, he wanted to make them grander. He wanted to make them big in scale, but he couldn't because of budget reasons. And that's why I understand why he wants to go back and fix things and how technology has changed so much. And that's what it did here. Technology has changed where he wants to mix models with CG environments. They were shooting at the palace. In the background, they wanted to make CG environments. The grassland battle with the Gungans and the droids, completely CGI. Everything was CGI there. The pod races, they actually built pod models that were smaller, but the environment that the pod is going in, you know, that's completely CGI environments. And in the documentary, you can see that it's like $6 million or $16 million or something to fly a pod, and to create those environments was like 14 to $16 million just to create environments. It's crazy. CG, I mean, that's one thing that people, you know, kind of have a complaint about, is the whole CG thing. At least he tried to mix. He tried to mix it up with CG and practical, which I can appreciate. A lot of people says that the CGI doesn't really hold up today. I noticed there are a couple of scenes that don't, you know, they kind of look like older CGI that doesn't hold up well. But I think it's fine. Like the grass planet battles where you can kind of see it a little bit, but I still think it holds up pretty good. It made over $1 billion, and it was the highest grossing film in 1999. But yeah, the story's about a trade dispute, and you know, the Jedi are trying to protect, or they're trying to protect the Queen, but they get into trouble. You know, they go to Tatooine to get new parts for the ship. They run into Anakin. Anakin wins parts for their ship because they can't afford them in a pod race, which is probably the best part of the movie. There's an extended cut of the pod race, and Jake Lloyd was great in that. He was great. I have no complaints about that. There's just some things with Jake Lloyd I didn't like. All in all, he did his job, and I do not blame the kid. He was a kid. That was it. He was a kid. You know, when he gets in the ship and he destroys the droid control center in space. That was reminiscent of when Luke blows up the Death Star. That's what George wanted. He wanted every stanza to rhyme. You know, his father as a kid blows up that droid headquarters, and then Luke blows up the Death Star. It was the same thing. So that was kind of cool. Kind of a throwback to that. But there's a lot of things going on in this movie. A lot of things with the Gungans, and then, you know, the droids and the Viceroy and Darth Sidious and Darth Maul, and then the Jedi. There's so many things. Even the third act of the movie, you got the duel. You got the spaceship battles. You got Padme trying to get to the Viceroy. You got the Gungans fighting the droids. All this stuff is going on at one time. So it was crazy. And then, you know, Anakin and Padme meet for the first time, and he falls in love, basically. He has a crush on her and stuff, but, you know, it doesn't seem like she feels the same way. But, you know, they're young, and that was kind of cool. You know, that's Luke and Leia's mom and dad, pretty much, and you get to see the whole origin of that. So at least this movie has characters that still stick with the Skywalker arc, and you get to see where it all started, and I really like that. I remember very fondly. I was in school. I was in high school. I remember when the movie came out on VHS. I was sick from school, and my mom actually went out to Walmart and got the movie for me and brought it home to cheer me up. And I remember I was sick, but I was like eating chicken soup and watching that movie over and over and over again because I was so excited. It was. I wasn't the type of guy who walked out of the theater after watching Phantom Menace and being like, well, that wasn't Star Wars to me. That sucked. I loved it. I think I watched it so much that I kind of got burnt out on it, and I went on like a hiatus for a while. And I didn't, you know, then I just didn't want to revisit it because I was just like, I don't know if I want to watch Phantom Menace, because I watched it too much. But let me tell you, I revisited it like not too long ago because for reviewing the movies here, and I love it. I love Phantom Menace more than I love Force Awakens and that crappy film Last Jedi. Yes, I said it. I hate The Last Jedi. When we get to that, I will explain why. I'm not on the hate train. I'm not doing it just because I want views. I hate The Last Jedi. And all my points will be proven in my review. So, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, I think gets unnecessary hate, and I really love the movie. I know a lot of people consider it the weakest. It's either Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones that they consider the weakest of the entire series. Now that The Last Jedi has come out, I think that's changed, because there are people who hated the prequels, and now that the new Disney ones have come out, people love the prequels because of the new ones that they don't really like them. It's just funny how people act. It's funny how people change their minds because of that stuff. Like, I've always kept, my mind has never really changed on that kind of stuff. I never really said that I hated Phantom Menace. I never said that. So, but great cast, great battles, great action scenes. It looks great. It feels like Star Wars. I love the lightsaber sounds and the way, the sabers, they do their force powers like when they're like, it's a standoff and they run like the Flash. They can deflect, lasers back at the droids and things like that. It's just, oh my God, fast saber battles. That's just great choreography, great stuff. Compared to the older ones, like, yeah, this one, it's top notch. And I just got so invested with the story. But the gripes, I just wish we would have seen more Darth Maul. I wanted to see more Darth Maul. I even wanted to see more Qui-Gon. I got so invested in Qui-Gon, I just wanted to see more of him. But it is what it is. I didn't really care for the Gungans, like I said. Ahmed Best did his best. He did his best, playing Jar Jar. I just think the Gungans really had no reasoning to be there other than to fight the droids. That's it. Jar Jar really he just kept getting in the way. It kind of, it was kind of irritating, but whatever. Anyway, guys, that's my review. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I'll see you guys for episode 2, Attack of the Clones.